move to secure the wall. If they break through, we're done.
So we are talking about the movie Kingsglaive, Final Fantasy 15. Of course, this is actually part of the Final Fantasy series and actually has a direct correlation with the actual Final Fantasy 15 game. This one is directed by Takashi Nozu. I probably pronounced that exactly right, I reckon. Now, this is obviously, I've seen this in the English dub. It's got a pretty good cast here. You've got Aaron Paul, Lena Headey and Sean Beam heading up the cast here. And the story here basically focuses on two kingdoms, basically on this particular world, and they have been fighting. And one side tends to be more technology-based, as far as I understood it. The Niflheim, they're the kind of the bad guys, and our good guys use magic to defend the greater forces of the Niflheim. And basically, the Kingsglaive are a kind of special unit, basically made up of immigrants. Who are there to kind of protect the kingdom, and they're all badass and they have kind of different powers and things like that, so it's all pretty cool. So Aaron Paul plays this character called Nyx, who's kind of our central character here, and he's your protagonist throughout the movie and our central hero. And the story kind of focuses on this kind of this conflict and this potential peace that is going to happen between the two of them, but of course we know things are going to go slightly wrong. That's pretty much all I'll say in the plot here. Let's talk about the positives and negatives. Now, the obvious positive here is going to be the actual visual style here. This film is an absolute visual treat. It is absolutely beautiful. The character design, the backgrounds, the graphics here are fantastic. I mean, we're not quite at the point where we can have photorealistic people, but we're so close. I mean, there is a female Kingsglaive who is more in the beginning of the movie. Man, there are times when she looks pretty real, I've got to be honest with you. And there are characters who look better than others, I will say. But for the most part, man, there are some decent effects on here. This is like really lovingly made in regards to its visual flourishes. And I also kind of really like some of the effects here that are used on the kind of the magic that is used on screen. All the Kingsglaive have kind of certain abilities. Nyx, who basically almost has like a kind of like Nightcrawler teleporting sort of gimmick, basically, where he kind of throws his dagger and then he can kind of teleport where the dagger has landed and stuff like that. I thought it was really cool. I really liked that. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. I think the cast here and the English dub, at least, do a pretty good job. I mean, Sean Beam is probably the voice you're going to recognise the most. And of course, he does what Sean Beam does best, if you know what I mean. But obviously, you've got Lena Headey and Aaron Paul. I think there's a pretty decent enough job here in regards to the acting. On to the negatives, I've got to say, even though I feel the graphics were fantastic, there are some issues that I have with some of the animation. Some of the animation isn't quite as good, unfortunately, as the graphics. So people do still look that they're kind of like floating around and kind of, not all the time, it's certainly not everywhere. There are a few occasions where I feel the animation was a little subpar. The film, I feel, is also too long. This movie could have done, I feel, with half an hour less, and it would have been a lot more of a punchy film, because I feel it really drags in the middle section of this film and kind of gets a little bit bogged down in its own mythology, which I'll come on to in just a second. Now, one thing I will want to say about this film, in regards to where I stand on the kind of Final Fantasy franchise, I worked in the video game industry for 11 years, so I am very familiar with the Final Fantasy games, but I was never a huge fan of playing them. I don't really like JRPGs, if I'm completely honest with you. I know they're massively popular, but nonetheless, they're not really my kind of thing. And I feel a bit like the movie Warcraft. If you are a fan of the kind of the Final Fantasy games and films, then this is going to be, you're going to get so much more out of this than if you are a casual movie fan. The main issue as a casual movie fan watching this film is it doesn't make sense, and as the film goes on, it makes less and less sense, which is the bizarre thing. And already there's kind of like monsters and stuff in it that seem to come out of nowhere. But I feel if you are just a kind of a casual movie fan, you want to watch a fantasy movie, things just happen for kind of seemingly no reason. I'm sure there are reasons for it if you're a Final Fantasy film fan, but nonetheless, it just kind of like there's areas in this film are really slow, and they're just trying to cram all this stuff up in other sections of this film. And then we have these bizarre monsters that just turn up and seemingly out of nowhere. And I just don't know what the hell's going on, to be quite honest with you. I actually feel this film would have benefited if they had dialed back a little bit on the kind of the fantasy side of stuff and the kind of the monsters and things like that. It went a little bit OTT in places, I feel, and it would have been a cool, like, cyberpunk adventure if they maybe had focused on the kind of more of the tech side of stuff and maybe had some magic and stuff like the kind of the teleporting and maybe some kind of like creatures, but it just went too much, if you ask me. So I feel that was the main criticism, along with the kind of the fact that I feel it is too long. If that film was about half an hour less, I feel it would have been a lot better. Overall, though, it's definitely a visual treat. It's something that I think fans of the kind of the Final Fantasy series will definitely enjoy, infinitely more than a kind of just a casual movie fan. But as a casual movie fan, I feel I have to kind of look at it like that. So I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me comments, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.